Hello everyone, and welcome back to Yellow Brick Road Rash. I'm so glad you're here. Heartfelt welcome to you if you're new. I'm so glad you can join us. Take a moment to settle in. In a world that demands our attention in 1,000 directions, this space right here is an invitation inward. This is a journey, not just through information, but into the subtle space of your own energy. It's based on the powerful teachings of Dr. Joe Dispenza, reimagined through this narrative. You're invited to listen, not just with your mind, but with your entire body. Today, we will explore the 7 energy centers in your body. We will tie them to the ancient chakras, show how they influence your state of being, your health, your thoughts, and your ability to create. We'll also look at how a simple but profound breathwork practice can help you activate and harmonize those centers, catalyzing change from the inside out from wherever you are. If you're here with me today, you may be sitting still, but something in you is waking up. The human body is more than bone and blood. It's electric, magnetic actually. It pulses with charge. Every thought, every emotion, every choice sends ripples through a field of energy that extends beyond the body and echoes within it. We are constantly transmitting, constantly receiving this energy. And this isn't just spiritual poetry, it's science. Within the body are 7 major hubs of energy. In ancient traditions, they were called chakras. In Joe Dispenza's work, they're called energy centers, intelligent systems that coordinate the flow of information and life force through your body and mind. Each one relates to certain organs, hormones, emotions, and even behaviors. They are the biological interface of your consciousness. When we ignore them, they run sort of unmanaged in the background, looping old programs of fear, lack, defense. But when we become conscious of them, we can start to rewire them for their intended purpose. We can shift them from their patterned, routine functioning of the past to helpful and fruitful creators of the future. So, let's begin at the base. The first energy center is located at the base of the spine. It's the foundation, associated with survival, physical security, and instinct. When life feels threatening, this center activates. When you feel safe, grounded, and strong in your body, this center hums in harmony. It's directly tied to your stress response, your adrenals, and your relationship with the material world. If you live in chronic fear, worry about money, or feel disconnected from your body, this is the center that's calling for balance. The root chakra, or Muladhara, sits at the very base of the spine, right at the perineum, near the coccyx or tailbone. It's our energetic foundation, linked to survival, safety, and the most primal part of our nature. And interestingly, that spot is where our tail once was. From a biological standpoint, humans are part of the great tree of mammals. And like many mammals, we once had tails, not just in evolutionary terms, but even now in the womb. During embryonic development, every human fetus develops a tail-like structure around the 4th week. In most cases, it regresses by week 8, becoming the coccyx, the final remnant of a past we no longer need for balance or expression. But what if we still feel with it? I mean, in animals, the tail is a mood ring, raised in alertness, tucked in fear, wagging in joy. It's part of their nervous system. expressing the emotional state without a word. And though we don't have visible tails anymore, many energy practitioners and somatic therapists believe we do still carry that energetic tail. It's the same subtle awareness that lets you feel tension at your base when you're scared, or safety and release when you're grounded. The root chakra is that tail in a way. It's the instinctual yes or no that bypasses logic. The primal energy that still listens for danger, still searches for safety. When it's balanced, we feel rooted, strong, stable, unshakable. When it's blocked, we feel off balance, anxious, disconnected from our bodies. So maybe we didn't lose our tails after all. Maybe we just internalized them. And now they speak through our energy. Moving upward, the second center, also known as the sacral chakra or Svadhisthana, resides in the pelvic region. This is the center of emotion, sexuality, and creativity. It governs your ability to connect, to feel, to experience pleasure and passion. It also carries your relationship patterns, especially those around intimacy and desire. When blocked, it can manifest as guilt, shame, or emotional numbness. But when awakened, it becomes a wellspring of vitality and artistic, creative energy. You know what else I keep thinking about? The way evolution might have played a role in the sacral chakra rising to power, kind of stepping up as the next big energetic priority once the root's basic survival job had started to chill out a bit. Think about it. Back when we were tailed primates, that tail meant something. It wasn't just for show. It helped with balance, signaling, quick escapes. It was like a built-in survival tool, and it lined up perfectly with the root chakra's job, staying alive, grounded, instinctual. But as we evolved and stood upright, tail gone, hands free, we didn't need that kind of root level full body alertness in the same way anymore. And maybe, just maybe, as that primitive need started to fade, the sacral chakra moved into the spotlight. Because suddenly, survival wasn't just about running from predators or clinging to branches. It was about continuing the species. If your line didn't go on, your story ended. So procreation, bonding, emotional connection, those things became critical. You needed to attract a mate, create offspring, keep a family alive. Survival turned into reproduction, and reproduction became sacred. Which brings me back to that word, sacral. It sounds like sacred for a reason. That whole region, hips, womb, pelvis, is where life begins. It's where we make things. And even beyond babies, it's where we generate passion, movement, creativity. It's juicy and messy and real. It's full of emotion. And maybe that's why this chakra holds so much power, because it's not just about keeping the species alive anymore. It's about keeping us human. So yeah, maybe the tail faded out, and with it the old root instincts loosened their grip. But something just as powerful took their place. This sacred, sensual, deeply emotional center that reminds us we're not just meant to survive. We are meant to create, to feel, and to connect. And that's worth honoring. The third energy center sits in the region of the solar plexus, and in Sanskrit, it's called Manipura. This is where your sense of self resides, your personal power, confidence, and autonomy. It's where your drive lives, where you act, decide, and assert yourself. When this center is overstimulated, we often become reactive, aggressive, or over-controlling. When underactive, we may feel powerless or directionless. Balance here feels like clarity, determination, and calm strength. This area is often associated with the gut. We say gut reaction when we're talking about our own physical responses to new stimuli. In terms of survival, it would be literally impossible to eat if we were in fight or flight mode. So, it is an essential part of how our body responds to threat. When you are stressed out, do you eat or do you avoid eating? If you eat when stressed, what do you think happens to your system if it's supposed to be focusing on survival and running from that tiger? If you have any thoughts about that, put it in the comments. But now I'm starting to see this bigger pattern, one that's kind of blowing my mind. Honestly, it's like the chakras aren't just stacked in our bodies, they're stacked in time, in evolution. Each one a chapter in the human story, a step in consciousness, towards consciousness, a shift in how we survive, how we relate, and become. The root was pure survival. The sacral was reproduction and connection. And from that sacred center of creativity and emotion emerges the next level, the solar plexus. And this one feels different. It doesn't replace the sacral. It's birthed from it. Like once we mastered creation, once we could form bonds and keep life going, something new was ready to be born. Self-awareness. The solar plexus is where I shows up, where will and identity begin to form, where power becomes personal. I wonder if this was the stage in our evolution where humans started really noticing themselves as individuals. Not just part of the group, tribe, or partner in the pair, but me, separate, unique, capable, and maybe also vulnerable. Because the moment we start to define ourselves, we also begin to compare, to doubt, to try and prove something. This is probably where ego began to take shape and take center stage. Not as something bad, but as something necessary. We needed to stand on our own, to direct our energy towards goals, to say, this is who I am, and mean it. That's solar plexus energy. It's the fire, the drive, the I am. And now I can't help but wonder, what happens when we move beyond that? When we've built this strong sense of self, then what? That's where the heart comes in. The heart center is located in the center of the chest and is called Anahata in Sanskrit. This is the bridge between the physical world and the non-physical. It's the home of love, not just romantic love, but compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, and connection to life itself. Physiologically, it influences your immune system, your emotional resilience, and your sense of coherence. When this center is blocked, grief and resentment linger. When it's open, we experience elevated states of joy, appreciation, and unconditional love. Right here in the center of the chest, something shifts, something softens. After all that fire in the solar plexus, the drive to define ourselves, to chase, to build, to win, we arrive at a place that feels still, open, unarmored. The heart is the great bridge between the lower survival centers and the higher divine ones. Dispenza talks about it like the axis, the place where matter meets spirit, where the old self lets go and a new self begins to emerge. And it makes sense, doesn't it? If the root was, I must survive, and the sacral was, I must connect, and the solar plexus was, I must become, then the heart says, I'm ready to feel it all. Love, loss, empathy, grief, gratitude, all the messiness and beauty of being human. This is where evolution turns inward. Because here's the thing. Once we've claimed our identity in the solar plexus, we hit a fork in the road. Do I use this power for me or for others and with others? Do I compete or do I connect? The heart is where we remember that we belong to each other, that we are not just here to survive or succeed. We are here to love, to heal, to open. It's the first energy center that isn't just about me. It's about we. And that's a huge evolutionary leap. In some ways, I think this is kind of where humanity is stuck right now, hovering between the solar plexus and the heart. Still trying to figure out what it means to live from love, not fear. To put down our weapons, our labels, our need to be right or powerful, and just be. This is so important right now. So maybe the heart isn't just a chakra. Maybe it's a threshold. The doorway between the human we've been and the human we are becoming. Rising further, we reach the throat center. This is called Vishuddha or Visuddha in Sanskrit. This is the seat of communication, expression, and truth. It governs your voice, your ability to speak and live authentically. The thyroid and metabolic systems are influenced by this center. If you've ever held back words out of fear or felt you couldn't speak your truth, you've felt the contraction of this energy. But when it flows, your voice becomes a conduit for clarity and creation. Man, I've talked a lot about my voice. In fact, I made a music video about it, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out in my songs playlist. I'm so proud of it, honestly. It's a collaboration between me and my husband, who is the musician in the family. It's called Free Women. It is a deeply heartfelt work about voice and creativity. This one is complicated for me, though, personal and tender. I've spent years feeling like I didn't have a voice, or that when I did try to speak, it wasn't heard. It still stings sometimes, and I'll admit part of the reason I started this channel was to exercise my voice, literally, spiritually, and creatively, to just see if I could make a sound in the world that someone might actually feel. And as if the universe wanted to press it in even deeper, I had surgery on my neck that affected my vocal cords. I can't sing like I used to. I tried the other day singing a lullaby to my granddaughter and felt like notes just weren't there. They're missing, like someone rearranged the strings on an instrument I no longer know how to play. And that hurt. It still does. But I also have no thyroid from a surgery earlier in my life. So I think that's impactful. I wish I could say I've pushed through, but honestly, I don't even want to practice singing right now. But I do want to keep trying to speak, one way or another. So here I am, still reaching, still talking. The throat chakra is said to be the first of the divine energy centers, the gateway to truth and expression. It comes right after the heart, and I get why now. You can't really speak your truth until your heart is open. Otherwise, the voice becomes a weapon, or maybe a performance, a way to dominate, or something to hide behind. But when the voice rises through the heart, that's when it becomes sacred. And it makes me wonder about the future of humanity. The way some people describe non-human intelligences, NHI, like the Greys, they're mouthless, communicating only through telepathy. Is that where we are headed? To a time where voice isn't even needed because truth is just felt? I don't know, maybe, but maybe that's just one version of what's possible. Right now, we're still in this in-between space. We have voices, but we're actually still learning how to use them. Still fumbling through expression, trying to tell the truth, trying to sing our own song even when it hurts. And this is what I'm starting to realize about the chakras. They're not just stacked in the body. They are sequenced in time, in us. An evolutionary staircase we're all climbing together. The throat is farther down that path, and it asks something of us. It's not asking for perfection, not performance, just presence, just truth, just sound. Even if that sound is shaky or missing a few notes. Even if it's the first time we've dared to let it out. So here I am, finding my voice, even if I'm still not sure it will be heard. Between the eyebrows is the sixth center, often called the third eye. It governs vision, not the kind you use to see the world, but the kind that lets you perceive beyond the obvious. It's linked to intuition, insight, imagination, and awareness. When this center is asleep, we feel mentally foggy or rigid. When awake, we experience synchronicities, creativity, and a sense of knowing that goes beyond logic. You know, when I got the idea for my Dot the Eye project, I didn't really realize how deeply it would end up tying into the sixth energy center, also known as Anya in Sanskrit, the third eye. But now it feels kind of obvious. This chakra is literally about seeing, not with the eyes, but with insight, with intuition, with a knowing that bypasses logic and lands straight in the body. And for me, that kind of knowing only shows up when I'm in flow. Flow is a word that gets tossed around a lot. It's kind of becoming a buzzword. But what I'm talking about is that waking meditation, that state where you are so immersed in what you're doing, you stop existing as a separate observer of it. There's no you doing the thing. There's just the thing doing through you. It's a give and take. To me, flow is meditation with your eyes open. Both Tom Campbell and Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about how important it is to carry meditation into our waking life. It's not enough to close your eyes and connect to Source for 20 minutes a day, or pray for a few minutes a day. The real evolution happens when you can stay tethered to that connection all the time. When you can walk through the grocery store or sit in traffic and still be aligned, still be seeing clearly. That's where flow comes in. I think it's the bridge between meditation and embodiment. It's where third eye insight and heart-centered presence start shaping your lived experience moment by moment. It's how we practice staying in the field. And I can't not mention the bindi here, the small dot placed at the space between the eyebrows, right over the Anya chakra. In Hindu and Buddhist tradition, it's a symbol of spiritual sight, of the divine feminine, of concentration and focus. Traditionally, it represents the unseen eye, the place where you access the inner realms. Today, it's often worn decoratively, but that symbolic power still lingers. I mean, how wild is it that ancient traditions were literally placing a mark over this center of higher perception? It's like a visual cue to remember, you're more than just your eyes and ears and skin. You can see with the soul. Maybe that's what telepathy actually is. And then there's the pineal gland, tucked right there in the center of the brain, directly aligned with the third eye. This tiny gland is part of the endocrine system and helps regulate melatonin, which governs your circadian rhythm, your waking and sleeping cycles. It's literally the part of the body that manages when we open and close our eyes. But the pineal gland is more than just a sleep switch. Studies suggest it may also produce DMT, the so-called spirit molecule, a powerful compound associated with dream states, near-death experiences, and psychedelic visions. Whether or not the pineal gland is the exclusive source of DMT is still debated, but there's no doubt it's a gateway, biologically and energetically, to altered states of consciousness. So when we talk about opening the third eye, we're not just being mystical. We're talking about activating a real physical structure in the brain that sits at the intersection of sleep, vision, and perception beyond this world. That's what the Ajna chakra is. It's your inner command center, your divine GPS, if you will. Each chakra seems to map to an era of our evolutionary journey. As we rise, the speed of that evolution picks up. The lower three centers, root, sacral, solar plexus, took a long time to develop. They were about survival, reproduction, and establishing identity. But now, those of us stepping into the heart chakras, or even hovering somewhere between heart and third eye, are starting to evolve in real time. I think this is the leap everyone's been talking about, our leap in evolution, the one so many people can feel but can't quite name. We're no longer waiting for slow biological change. We're upgrading through consciousness, through the chakra map. And think about it. People are seeking altered states in droves. Ayahuasca, psilocybin, breathwork, deep meditations. There's a hunger to pierce that veil. And not just for the experience, but for the integration, to bring that wisdom back and live it. Stay in the field, stay in flow. Even the Vatican is beginning to acknowledge Dr. Joe's work. He was invited to the Vatican, to a consortium of healers. I think that's amazing. That alone should tell you something is shifting. Those of us already even partially heart-centered are on the fast track. Because once you open the heart even a little bit, you've got access to higher intelligence. You are no longer just surviving, swimming in that survival soup. You're connected, and when you're connected, everything speeds up. Insights come faster, those wonderful, juicy synchronicities. Healing happens quicker. You see more clearly. Ajna, Vishuddha, and Sahasrara, the third eye, throat, and crown. These are not distant mountains anymore. For many of us, they're already humming with vibration. And maybe that's what this whole project is about, learning to live from these higher centers, not just touch them or just be aware of them. We're not just remembering who we are. We're evolving into it together. Are you with me? If so, please let me know in the comments or subscribe to my channel. I'll get the message. And finally, at the crown of the head is the seventh center. This is the portal to higher states of consciousness. It's the realm of transcendence, unity, and spiritual intelligence. It's not tied to dogma or belief. It's about connection. When activated, we feel open, inspired, and part of something greater than ourselves. The brain and pineal gland respond to this kind of coherent energy with altered states of awareness that many describe as mystical or expansive. Dr. Joe calls it coherence, heart-brain coherence. And here's another sidebar. There's a reason it's called the crown chakra, not just because of where it sits, but because of what it represents. A crown is a symbol of royalty, yes, but more than that, it's a symbol of sovereignty, of being in your own divine power, aligned with that divine authority, not an external control. When we activate this center, we don't become kings or queens of others. We become sovereign over ourselves. And that's just fantastic. That's where I want to be. And look at the way actual royal crowns are designed. Gold, arched, radiant. They rise up from the head like rays of energy, like an aura made physical, spires reaching upward, as if channeling something higher. You think that's an accident? Nope. That's ancient knowing passed down in symbolism. This is ancient stuff. Same with the halo. All those old religious paintings, saints and angels surrounded by circles of light, they're not just decorative. Those are visual metaphors for the activation of that crown chakra. When someone's crown is open, they don't just feel connected to source. They start to glow. Light pours through. So yes, this is where we bring in the aura, because when your crown chakra is balanced and open, it impacts your entire energetic field. And that energetic field is the toroidal field. Every chakra contributes to the aura, but the crown is like the conductor. It's where we receive from source. The source field, the quantum field, the divine matrix, whatever language resonates with you. And when we are aligned from root to crown, our torus field, that beautiful donut-shaped swirl of life force around us, becomes coherent, balanced, radiant. That's when people feel your presence before you even walk into the room. That's when synchronicities pick up, and that's when you glow. Think of it like this. The root plugs you into the earth. The crown plugs you into the cosmos. And together, they create the current for everything else to flow. As above, so below. You become a bridge, a conduit, a walking meditation. So yes, when you activate the crown chakra, it's like placing a crown of energy on your head. Maybe not of gold, but of light. You become royal, not in title, but in essence. You wear a halo, not because you're holy, but because you're whole. And that's the shift I see happening now. More and more of us waking up to our connection to the field, to source, to each other. Not through dogma, not through hierarchy, but through direct experience, through embodiment, through energy. And maybe that's the real meaning of ascension, not going up, but going in and letting what's in finally shine. These 7 centers are not isolated. They are deeply connected. Like instruments in a band, they need to be in tune with each other to play in harmony. Most people spend their lives stuck in the lower 3, cycling through survival, desire, and control. And while those centers are vital, they aren't meant to dominate. Not at this point in our evolution. The magic begins when you start moving energy upward, when your heart opens, when your mind quiets, when your breath becomes the lever for inner transformation. Energy that moves freely from the base of the spine to the crown of the head unlocks human potential. It brings the body out of stress. It tells the brain a new story. It shifts your identity from the known to the unknown. That's a core theme in Dr. Joe's work. And that's where change lives, in the unknown and being open to it. Dr. Dispenza teaches a breath practice designed to amplify and direct the energy stored in the lower centers up towards the brain. It's subtle, powerful, and deeply embodied. Let's talk about this for a minute. It goes something like this. You begin seated with your spine aligned. Let your body relax, but keep your awareness sharp. You begin by drawing in a deep breath through your nose as you inhale. Engage the muscles at the base of the spine, gently squeezing upward through the lower abdomen, the belly, and the chest, as though you are drawing energy up from the ground floor of your being towards your mind. You visualize this energy rising as if pulling up through a central column inside your body, from root to crown. Pull the energy up. At the peak of your breath, you hold. You keep squeezing those muscles upward. This creates a slight internal pressure, one that awakens the spine, stimulates the brain, and activates the pineal gland. You may feel warmth, tingling, even a subtle buzzing behind the forehead. These are all signs that energy is moving. Then, gently and slowly, you release the breath. Let the body soften. Sit in the aftermath, spacious, quiet, present. This isn't just a breath technique, it's an act of self-regulation, self-love, and awakening. With consistent practice, this breath begins to change your brainwaves. It shifts your hormones. It lifts you out of conditioned patterns and into the field of possibility. You're no longer just surviving in those first three chakras. You're creating. You're moving that energy up into the divine. So, there's one more piece of this story I want to include, and it might be the most ancient one of all. That is Kundalini. It's a word I've shied away from for some reason. It's intimidating to me. But in yogic tradition, Kundalini is often described as a coiled serpent resting at the base of your spine, dormant, coiled, waiting. When awakened, whether through breath work, meditation, movement, or even trauma, it begins to rise up through the root, into the sacral, then the solar plexus, through the heart, up the throat, beyond the third eye, and finally into the crown chakra region. This is the same path we've just talked about together. And I believe, truly, that this is the mechanism behind what Dr. Joe Dispenza helps people access. He may use modern language, coherence, the quantum field, energy centers, brain-heart alignment, coherence, but the experience, it's ancient, it's cellular, deeply cellular, it's energetic truth. When people in his workshops experience spontaneous arousal of energy, bursts of light, sensations of movement rising up the spine, or intense waves of bliss and emotional release, that's Kundalini, whether we call it that or not. Dr. Joe's work may be wrapped in neuroscience, but what it's really doing is awakening the divine within the body. And it's speaking to people through science, reconnecting us with the ancient blueprint of energy that's been there all along, though. It's not mystical woo. It's not metaphor. It is biology meeting spirit, and it's sacred technology. And perhaps the greatest gift of our time is that we are finally beginning to bridge the language of the ancient with the science of the now. To realize they were never in opposition, just two ways of pointing at the same truth, two different types of tools. You are the vessel, you are the field, you are the fire and the light. And the journey through the chakras, that's just your remembering. So much of our life is dictated by what we cannot see, the stories encoded in our bodies, the thoughts we repeat, the energy we project. The work of awakening isn't about fixing something broken, though. It's about remembering something whole. Your energy centers are intelligent. Your breath is a gateway. Your mind is a tool. But your heart is the compass. Dr. Joe Dispenza's work reminds us that the body is not a barrier to enlightenment. It's the vehicle for it. And the breath, when used with intention, becomes the ignition key. So breathe, listen, trust the current within you. You were never meant to stay stuck in survival. You were born to evolve. And we've been given the map. Where are you on this map? Okay, that's it for today. And now for some editorialism. Oh gosh, whenever I'm going through the episode, I have so many thoughts that are just blazing through my head, and then I forget them when it's time to actually talk to you casually about it. But I will start by saying, for some reason, the chakras always confused me. And I'm not sure if it was really confusion so much as just like, what are, spinning blah, blah, blah centers. That did sound pretty dang woo. This makes total sense that our goal is the crown chakra. It's not just oh wow, it'd be so cool if one day I could have Kundalini. No, it's really about, yes, you need to do that. You need to practice it and you need to try to get there, but it's really living in Kundalini. And once you are at that so sacred space, then you are truly enlightened, right? I think that has an impact on our reincarnation. It has an impact on our infinity, who we are as infinite beings. It's impactful there somehow. And when I say that, I'm kind of thinking of some of the NDE stories I've heard about life plan and blueprints and going back, and also the more enlightened you are, the the better the job is you get when you come back to Earth, or whatever it is, or maybe you open a new level of tools like in Super Mario or something, and you have a better chance of survival with those tools or something. I don't know, but it's not that far-fetched actually. So back to the chakras though, I know one thing I didn't really go into is because it's just so much information, and please, do your reading and see if you can find some material about these energy centers and chakras. And I do recommend Dr. Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural. It has been pretty life-changing for me, and it's helping me put a lot of concepts together, which is awesome. But the energy centers spin, like when they are unobstructed, they have a vibration because of this quote spin that give them frequencies. And a lot of times in this consciousness world, in this consciousness discussion, you hear people talk about that flow in the chakras essentially being like a river, and each of the chakras you can think of as being like an eddy or a little whirlpool along the banks. And you can kind of envision how they have their own separate personality, but they are part of the whole, just like those eddies in the stream. And when a rock moves into the stream and blocks off that eddy doesn't have the same current, vibration, rotation, and sometimes will die out because of it. So think of it like that. I think it helped me sort of visualize what that's been really, what impact that might have and what it might mean to the whole system. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which I mentioned just briefly, was the fact that I had my thyroid removed when I was younger. And I'm wondering what impact that has on this flow, if it is part of the voice. And has that affected my throat chakra in a way that I never anticipated? I have to think on that a little bit, because between the thyroid surgery and the neck surgery, my throat chakra must be a wreck. So I am working on it through this podcast, and hopefully at some point I'll actually try to start practicing singing again. It's just hard. It's hard when you lose it. And so I'm going to say, if you're a singer or a performer or a speaker, keep using that voice. It's important. So what else can I talk about? Those were probably the main things. I mean, there was so much more that came to my mind, but to cut time short a little bit, I said that I would read a little bit from each episode from the plasma papers. So if you're interested in that, stick around. I'm going to pull that out here. And if not, thank you for being with us. I think the plasma papers are just, and I call them the plasma papers, it's just an easier way to kind of describe what I'm doing here. Okay, I am going to read a short section here because, yeah, I've ended up not just highlighting, I'm reading the whole thing and moving very slowly, and some of you may not be interested in all, but I don't know. This is in the name of continuing to challenge you and me about the whole UAP, NHI, plasma thing, because the more I learn, the more I hear about it, I really think a lot of what we are seeing in the skies in terms of, oh my God, there's an UAP, what is that light, is plasma. And last night, and actually we've been having a lot of thunderstorms lately, and it's made it extra interesting to stand at the window and watch the lightning. Sort of interesting learning about lightning. Did you know that it can come up from the ground? I guess I didn't really know that, but that does give it a whole new level of intrigue for me. Okay, so number 2 in the paper, the plasmasphere. And I haven't done my research. I have no idea what the ionosphere, thermosphere, plasmasphere, blah, 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 what all that is. I will look it up when I have time. But if you are interested, look it up. And if you find any answers, please put it in the comments. Save me some time. Save me some time from having to look it up. Plasmas have been filmed in the thermosphere, appearing from off camera, approaching and descending into thunderstorms, whereas others have suddenly materialized and began glowing in the space medium above the thunderstorms. These and other plasmoids may hover in place or travel in a trajectory that leads to a thunderstorm within which they descend, or which makes them a piercing target for plasmas, which they call hunters, I guess, and entities as yet undefined coming from a different direction. We hypothesize that those that suddenly materialize in the thermosphere either A, travel and arrive at near light speed and come to a sudden halt, B, or they are formed by localized electromagnetic activity generated by lightning storms, C, often within masses of illuminated and pulsating plasmas, there are those that are not illuminated and appear as shadows. Therefore, it is possible that plasmas may turn on or turn off their illumination. D, it is also possible that they and other plasmoids originate and seep across from a 5th dimension when electromagnetic activity produced by a massive thunderbolt is transformed into mass that becomes a small black hole. Whoa. Like, think about what they're saying. Black holes on Earth in thunderstorms. Okay, now I'm going to back up for just a second. This is another thing about the chakras. Some believe they're black holes. And I don't know what that really means. When I think about black holes, I think about information goes in and doesn't come out. But I know that even that is debated. They don't know. They don't really know. They just do know that they do exist. But I know some physicists are saying that the proton inside the atom is a black hole, a tiny, tiny, tiny black hole. And so black holes exist at every level of existence. That's kind of profound. I'm not sure how, but it is. We're just learning so much about our world and our Earth and our galaxy and our cosmos still. Not only still, but more now than ever. The technology, and I think AI is actually really helping in this genre. I will be talking about he's self-taught, Nassim Haramein. He's kind of an outsider in this whole discussion because he didn't go to school for physics, but he is brilliant and has a team of physicists who are trying to help improve his theories, which is super legit. I really like his work. Sometimes it isn't in line with what I'm seeing as what might be the truth about it all, but truth is none of us freaking know the truth. Nobody knows the truth. And maybe none of us will ever know the truth because it's not meant to be known. But also, if we live in an infinite world, infinite cosmos, there's infinite truths. So think about that for a minute. This is the way my brain works. Sorry, I know I keep saying that. Seep across from a fifth dimension. Fifth dimension? When electromagnetic activity produced by a massive thunderbolt is transformed into mass that becomes a small black hole. That pierces a brain, B-R-A-N-E, and there will be more on that later, separating that fifth dimension from those four compromising our known universe. Some of those that materialize also appear to be emerging from a surrounding darkened area that could be likened to a hole in space-time. It is also likely that those that arrive from off-camera descending downward originated in the plasmasphere. I'm going to have to read about that. A region of Earth's magnetosphere, well above the ionosphere, and which consists of low-energy, cool plasma. In 2014, satellite observation from the Themis mission have shown that density irregularities such as plumes form in the plasmasphere, and which may encapsulate electrons, protons, ions, neutrinos, and electrified dust, therefore forming a cold plasma. By contrast, the outer boundary of the plasmasphere may be relatively devoid of plasma. The existence of the plasmasphere was first deduced by detection and analysis of very low frequency Whistler radio waves, which in turn are believed to propagate and possibly originate, along with transient plasma, in upward directed bolts of lightning that pass through the ionosphere into the plasmasphere, and which propagates in the Whistler mode along geomagnetic field lines to the opposite hemisphere. Okay. Possibly these whistlers direct plasmas to the most energetic lightning storms, thus accounting for those that arrive off camera approaching and descending into storms raging in the troposphere. Whistlers are produced by plasma, lightning, and can be heard on radios on Earth, and, to speculate, it is possible that plasmoids communicate via those whistlers. Okay, that's all I'm going to read today. Anyway, thank you for staying with me here. I kind of feel like this plasma stuff is going to tie a whole bunch of things together at some point. I'm learning, like I've said many times, I'm learning along with you. I just am fascinated by all this stuff my brain never thought about before. And I'm hoping that it kind of tickles your fancy also, even if you don't get it. Like I don't get all of it, is sort of turning light on that you might be living in a really small box that needs to expand, and consider that the world that you and I live in is much bigger, much more complicated, and much more beautiful than we ever imagined. So, love you guys. Thank you for being here, and please like, comment, share, subscribe. I really want others to find me. I want others to maybe benefit from what I have to say. All right. Well, I'm out. Ciao.